Hello Capricorn, I'm Colleen Pearl, the Cool Crone, and welcome back to my channel. I want to take a moment to thank everybody who left comments on my last video. I really appreciate it and they're very helpful. And to all my new subscribers, thank you, welcome. I'm so glad you could join us. In today's video, I will be looking at all the major astrological influences for 2021 and how they affect the sign Capricorn. You should watch the video for both your rising and your sun sign. You'll get a lot out of both of them. 2021 has a lot happening astrologically. So let's get into it. Hello Capricorn. So 2021 starts out with a great many planets in your first house, which means that there's going to be a tremendous focus on you, the way you look, your body, how you feel, how you present yourself to the world. In other words, your brand. Tremendous focus there. And there's going to be a lot of focus there for the first 2 months, I'd say, of 2021. First of all, the sun is there. That's your heart. That's your desire to leave a legacy. Also, Mercury is there. That's your mind, your thinking, and the way you communicate, the way you express yourself. Pluto has been there forever, it probably feels like, since 2008. So you're still going through transformations and figuring out how you want to change your life, how you want to grow, letting things go, shedding things that no longer serve you. That process is still ongoing all through 2021. In fact, you still have 4 years of that. But then we also have in the beginning of the second house, we have Saturn and Jupiter in their great conjunction that begin on winter solstice this year. So they'll still be there, of course, in the new year. So that's going to put a big focus on your values. What's important to you? I mean, it's possible that you could experience some financial losses, but that would depend upon steps that you've been taking for the last 2 or 3 years in regards to your own values, your own resources, your attitude about your own resources. And resources of yourself include things like your talents and skills. Also just actual things that you do to manage and earn your money and how you spend your money. All of those things are second house items, and they will all be under great scrutiny from Saturn, but also expansion from Jupiter. So if you've been doing things in such a way that your income could increase, Jupiter will increase it. Saturn will make you watch it, track it, analyze it, and a little bit be hemmed in by it, be responsible to it at least. So you've got some business with your money, your values, your resources there to take care of really for the next couple of years. Jupiter's only going to be there for about a few months or a month. So Jupiter will expand it most in January. So you really want to capitalize on that. And then Saturn will hang around for a while. And Saturn is the one that's bringing the restrictions and the structure. But when it comes to managing money, restrictions and structure are often very good. So if you've been working on that for the last couple of years or even just the last few months, that's going to pay off well for you. But back to the first house, we have quite a lot of digging to do. Now, Pluto has been called by some astrologers the plow. As Pluto goes through a certain area of your life, it literally plows things up. You remember pictures of those old-fashioned plows? They have a thing that's kind of a wedge, kind of shaped like two hands, kind of like digging things up, or like the way a boat cuts through the water, the wake. That's the energy of Pluto. It's digging things up and showing you the underside. So if you have things within you, now we're talking about the first house now with Pluto, that make you feel bad about yourself, all that stuff has been coming up since 2008. So for 12 years, you've really been reminded of all the things that you need to look at within yourself that you have control over. The way you think about things, the way you think about relationships, the way you think about yourself, how you present yourself to the world. So if you've been working on that and really making good effort, Pluto also gives rewards, and Saturn is coming through there. Saturn gives rewards as well. Now, Saturn is looking at things in a little bit different way. And now Saturn, like I said, is moving into your second house. In your first house, though, is where Saturn has been for the last 3 years. So you have been taking steps. Saturn is structure. It's concrete things. So you have been taking steps and building structure to improve things maybe, or to let things go. But it's been working with Pluto to help you go through these things. Now, I'm not saying it's been pleasant. It may have been very unpleasant at times for the last 3 years. And maybe some other unpleasant things have happened even as far back as 2008, depending on where your ascendant is in Capricorn. And if you're a Capricorn sun, this is still going to hit you, but it's going to be, it will hit you according to where the planets are in your chart. But you've got Mercury there. So you have a lot of insight right now. And with the sun with Mercury walking through your first house, this is a great time for you to be very honest with yourself, to be very clear about what it is that you're trying to do. And, step up to the plate. Step up to the lesson that you've been learning from Saturn and apply it. This is a great time to see that, and then you will see the results, because Saturn's going to be moving out of that first house. It already has, actually, and that's when you get the rewards. Saturn makes you work really hard at something, and then as it moves on, you get the reward for that thing you were working on. Now, in January, we've got a couple of interesting things. The moon is going to hit Aquarius on the 14th of January. And when that happens, all the money and talent and resource things that Saturn and Jupiter have been focusing on are going to be highlighted and really pounded. Now, the moon is emotions. It's also female energy. But where the moon comes, this is going to be a new moon. And this is the chance for a new beginning. Now, Saturn and Jupiter have just been at 0 degrees Aquarius. And of course, they keep going forward through Aquarius. But that new moon in Aquarius is going to give you a chance to really start something great. Use whatever it is you've been learning. Maybe launch something. New moons are good for that. It's not a good time to just do something off the cuff and spur of the moment. Unless it's Sagittarius new moon, but it is a good time to start something, to give it its blessing. So what I like to tell people is that you do all the preparation up before the new moon, and you may be preparing for a year or more to do this particular project. But when you launch it on something auspicious like a new moon, or, there's lots of other times when you can launch things too. But new moon happens to be a good time. It's also a good time to let go of things. So some of your lessons have been talking about the Pluto things from your first house, things that you need to let go of, perhaps ways that you need to describe your relationships. You describe relationships. As soon as you meet someone, you begin to tell them how to treat you, right? So if you have been working on that with other people and how you allow people to treat you, then this new moon would be a great time to put your new lessons into practice. All right. Moving along, on the 16th, we have a conjunction between Mars and Uranus. Now, this is going to fall, it's going to be in your 5th house. So Mars and Uranus in your 5th house. Wow. What do we think that means? A wild encounter with a stranger that you meet in a bar. I don't know. The 5th house is love affairs. It's fun. It's risking and taking a chance. It's the stock market. It's children. It's sports. It's fun. It's how you express yourself having fun. So Mars is the male yang energy, and Uranus is unpredictability. Uranus is chaos, it's electricity, it's the internet, it's space, it's aliens, it's unconventional behavior. Truly the person who marches to a different drummer. Now, Uranus rules Aquarius. So Uranus is very simpatico with what's going on with the Aquarius planets, with Saturn and Jupiter. So you may meet somebody who's a little older than you that has a great deal of money or has a fatherly feel about them, and you may have a great time with them. Will you actually, as I was joking before, go home with that person? Yeah, probably not if you're a normal person. You won't, but the 5th house is all about, sexual encounters, love affairs, flings, So, something wild could happen there. Who knows? Now that's January 16th. And we will have just been coming off of Uranus going direct on the 14th. So Uranus's power is going to be much more powerful. So the 14th, 15th, 16th, I'm expecting that a lot of people are going to be saying, wow, this thing happened out of the blue. Or, on the downside, it could be an accident. It could be somebody having, not a car accident, but like a sporting accident for you if it's in the 5th house, or one of their kids gets hurt or something like that. So, be careful around that time, because Mars rules sharp objects and blood and war and things like that. So you definitely want to just, wrap your kids in bubble wrap from January 14th to the 16th, maybe even a couple days before and a couple days after. Just keep people really, really safe. But for your personal life, if you meet somebody, and you really hit it off, I wouldn't be surprised. And there could be great sexual chemistry at that time as well with that person because of the Mars influence, right? But Uranus is going to be acting explosively because he will just have gone direct. I actually don't know if Uranus is male or female. So we'll just say they will have just gone direct, and so there will be an explosive quality, a chaotic, an eccentric, a booming quality, an explosive quality. Uranus rules weather events, so let's say that it's kind of a hurricane that's going to happen. Okay. I think that's it for this January chart. Now we're moving on to the end of January. And at the end of January, Mercury goes retrograde. So on January 30th, which is what I'm looking at right now, Mercury is going to go retrograde in Aquarius. That's your 2nd house. So all this talk about the money stuff, do not start something on January 30th. Remember, the new moon was on the 14th, right? But you have all that Uranus stuff going on. So if it's anything to do with other people or anything, you might want to avoid that date. But if you're starting just something new or launching something that is in line with your brand, then the 14th is okay. Now, the Mercury is going to go retrograde on the 30th in Aquarius, and that's going to hit your 2nd house. So that means it's going to affect your finances in a daily way. 2nd house finances are not your big money. It's not like your whole annual income. It's the daily money that comes and goes. It's your paycheck every 2 weeks. It's the money you pay out for your bills. That's the money that we're talking about on the 2nd house. The big money is in the 8th house. That's your shared resources or your large money, things like, insurance payouts, loans, mortgages, investments, things like that. That's the 8th house. But on the 30th, when Mercury goes retrograde in Aquarius, that's your 2nd house. So don't get too freaked out about it. But also be aware that from January 30th to February 20th, you don't want to be doing anything that's messing up your money. You don't want to change jobs in that period of time. You probably don't want to loan people money during that time. You probably don't want to borrow money during that time. Just be really, really careful about written things, things having to do with your money, things that are going to reflect badly on you because it is your 2nd house and that's your resources. You just want to be real careful in those 3 weeks. Now, February 11th, again, the moon is going to be in Aquarius. So it's going to hit all this Aquarius stuff. Mercury will still be retrograde, so you'll get a big impulse possibly to do something with your money, like give a big grant, a big charitable contribution or something like that, because Aquarius is humanitarian. It could also be, your friend has a great invention and they want you to back him. Just wait till Mercury is not retrograde, which is it goes direct on February 20th, and then it's safe. But if you do these kinds of things when Mercury is retrograde, it's going to come back on you in an unpleasant way. Okay, so those are the basic things for January 30th going into February. So Mars and Uranus are kind of shaking it up there in your 5th house. So if you're the kind of person that has love affairs, probably going to happen. It'll be purely sexual, I think. I mean, it depends on your charts. You can always call me. My contact stuff will be at the end of the video. But there's going to be wild stuff happening with your fifth house for these first 2 months of the year, honestly. And that's really what's going on. You do have Neptune and Chiron in your third house. Third house is daily activities, neighbors, siblings, early childhood things. So you may have the feeling of, wanting to beautify your neighborhood, wanting to find a pretty way to drive to work if you drive to work, healing things. You may be involved with healing or a prayer circle or something of that nature that's in your community or with your neighbors or with people that you've known since childhood, that kind of thing. And that would be a beautiful expression of those energies. So January into February is kind of a nice time. And then we come up to February 17th. So we're still in February, but I had a different chart that I want to pull out. So now we have Mars has moved past Uranus, so that conjunction is no longer in effect. So possibly that little fling is over. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. It's Uranus. It's, here today, gone tomorrow. But what is happening on February 17th is Saturn is going to square Uranus. Now, this is a toughie. Saturn is going to be in your second house. That's your resources. Uranus is going to be in your fifth house still. So the moon is there as well. And the moon's going to be coming up. So there's an emotional quality to this. And the emotion could be challenging. It could be frustration. It could be anger. It could be you deciding that this isn't right, being indignant, feeling like somebody's trying to squelch your dreams. Somebody's trying to step on your dreams. Now, the interesting thing about a square between Saturn and Uranus is that their energies are just diametrically opposed. Saturn is trying to be conservative and go with the rules, authoritarian structure. It's trying to restrain you. It's trying to rein you in. It's trying to teach you lessons. It's also trying to give you clarity. It's trying to help you focus. There's a crystallization of ideas and communications and projects happen with strong Saturn aspects. Uranus is explosive, chaotic, not explosive like a dynamite explosion, but the energy of electricity just going popping, right? Like popcorn. That's Uranus energy. It's unconventional as opposed to Saturn's being very conventional. It's breaking the norms, breaking the rules, whereas Saturn is the authority that always uses the rules. It's, being an individual, marching to your own tune. So when these two energies square, it gives you the opportunity to meld these energies at that moment. So the universe is giving you an opportunity. Squares are opportunity for growth, for learning. So you're going to figure out a way, probably having to do with something between finances and having fun. So maybe you have a hobby that you really want to invest in. Saturn is going to rein you in so that you don't, put your whole mortgage payment into this, new, man cave or she shed just devoted to your hobby. It's going to say, we can do a little bit at a time. It'll satisfy what Uranus wants. Uranus wants to express itself as the odd, the unconventional, the chaotic, right? Saturn is just the opposite of that. So at this time in mid-February, February 17th and on, it's going to last a few days before that, and it's going to go on a few days after that because this is a strong aspect. You will figure out what it is that you're going to do. Now, let's throw Mercury retrograde on top of that. So Mercury retrograde is still retrograde until February 20th. So whatever monies that you're going to spend, it's a good thing that Saturn is pulling you back and saying, maybe we don't want to bet the farm on, this next new gaming console that might be great. Maybe we want to hold back and see. if that's what we really want or not. Now, Mercury is going to go direct on the 20th, and that doesn't mean that on the 20th you should run right out and do all these things. Give it a chance. Give it a few days, because Mercury retrograde has a tendency to sort of bleed over into what we call the shadow period, where still some things can kind of go wacky. Now, the consequences of things that go wrong or wacky in the shadow period are probably a lot less than if it's right in the heat of Mercury being retrograde. And again, Mercury's retrograde right in that house of finances. So you do really want to pay attention to what it is that you're doing in February. Moving along in February, so you still have this big emphasis on your second house. And by now in February, the sun has passed through Aquarius. So the sun has lit up your second house. So you've really been focusing on this now. Venus is there. So you love it. Venus is what you love. So you're really, really loving it. Mercury is there. Mercury makes you talk about it a million miles an hour. And you've got Saturn and Jupiter still there with the asteroid Pallas Athena, which is a lot of feminine energy. So, you're really focusing on this. This is really important to you right now. And I'm telling you, be careful. They're just, you just don't want to bet the farm on something that may be a passing fancy, or you may get better deals later after Mercury's not retrograde, or you may just decide that you don't have to spend it all at once. That maybe if this is like developing something like, a man cave, a she shed for yourself, that's fine to do. But maybe you want to do it gradually rather than all at once. Uranus is going to tell you, hey, everything all at once, but you shouldn't do that. And at the end of the month, on the 27th of February, now Mercury is direct. So this is a great time. You have a little blessing day. Everybody does, actually. Where Mars is going to trine Pluto. This is beautiful. This is very good energy. Now, Capricorn, I know you're a conservative sign. I know that you are cardinal. You're not opposed to change. You're okay with marching with the times. However, you do like to hang on to your routines and your rules because that makes you feel safe. Mars is in Taurus, trining Pluto, still in Capricorn in your first house. This is going to give you a huge shot in the arm. This is the boost of energy and action that you need to focus yourself into what you're going to do for the next 4 years to complete this transition of Pluto for yourself. Pluto is literally for the last 12, and it'll be fully 16, 18 years that it's been hanging around in your first house. Pluto is redefining you. Pluto is reinventing you, or you are reinventing yourself, and Pluto's giving you the impulse to do that. With Mars trining Pluto, you get a big shot of energy. There's a lot of times that Pluto in the first house, I'm sure, feels enervating, a little draining, because it's very demanding. It's always telling you, you have to do something. And after a while, the expectations are so high and there doesn't seem to be guidance. You're looking around like, hey, guides, you want to help me out here? Unless you're super psychic and you're getting information from your guides, which some of you may be. If you're watching this video, some of you may be extremely psychic and you are getting information from your guides. And I'm not saying that you're not. I'm just saying that if you're a person that is not getting that, ask for it. Ask your guides for it. But Mars is giving you some beautiful energy right now to work with. So use it. That's the bottom line. You got to use it. All right, let's move on. I don't want this to be so long. I want you to be able to watch it in one sitting. All right, March 8th. March 8th through maybe the 10th, 12th of March, the sun is going to meet up with Neptune in the sky. And this is going to be in the sign of Pisces. So this is going to be in your third house. So this is going to address everyday life, everyday monetary transactions, everyday transportation transactions. It's going to pertain to things that you remember from your childhood, your everyday commute to work, the everyday getting coffee kind of thing, and your neighborhood and maybe siblings. So with the sun conjuncting Neptune there, You have beautiful, fond memories of things. You may have a beautiful encounter with somebody that you really love, somebody, or you just may have a beautiful spiritual experience that occurs in the midst of your just everyday day. You know, you're not doing anything really extraordinary, and yet you may have an extraordinary experience because Neptune is beautiful like that. Every once in a while, Neptune just gives us a beautiful gift. So that's happening between March 8th and maybe up to the 11th or 12th of March. Beautiful, beautiful, nice thing. Also, if you are a writer, that is the day to sit down and map out the outline for your next book, because you're going to be creative. You're going to be able to go into fantasy. You're going to be feeling like everything you write is beautiful. You're going to be very admiring of your own imagination and creativity. And that's also for the third house too. Also, if you're taking or teaching some kind of a class about writing and communication, that's a great day to delve into things. You will be heard. Well, actually, Neptune might fog that up a little bit, but you will hear your ideas. You will understand your subconscious, your imagination, your creativity. So that's going to be a beautiful day. Beautiful, maybe a few days. Beautiful, maybe 5 days or so in there. All right. Then on March 13th, we have Venus in Pisces conjunct Neptune in Pisces. Again, lots of beautiful feelings. You may have prophetic dreams. You may have exceptional encounters with women. You may have just a beautiful period of time in there where life just seems to sail. You just feel great about that stuff. And Capricorn, Capricorn, you're hard on yourself. You're always working. You've always got a deadline. You're always, nose to the grindstone. So give up a little bit, loosen up, lighten up, let yourself flow, let your creativity flow, and really feed your soul. That's what all this Neptune energy is really about. It's really going to feed your soul and help you feel like the other side of you is rounded out. I often think of Capricorns, and I think of the image of the sea goat, but very often we just think of the goat, right? Scaling the mountain. And as I look at that and then apply it to a person, I very often feel like a little piece of the person is just missing because they work so hard. You work so hard, Capricorn. You have to allow yourself to be rounded out. And you will see in Capricorns that are older, you will see either this super skinny person who's like this, just a stick, because they just work all the friggin' time. Or you'll see somebody, I happen to have Capricorn rising, you'll see somebody like me who's really round. This is our attempt to be rounded out, right? I'm spiritual, I'm creative, I used to be an entertainer and a singer, now I work in a law firm usually, and then I do this stuff on the side. So Capricorns try to round themselves out, and when they do, honestly, we just get fat. But that's okay because we're trying to not just be so strict and so hard on ourselves. That's how I rationalize it. But a lot of Capricorns are just so disciplined, and they just have that very, very lean body and like no body fat on their body whatsoever. But also I see a lot of people like that, and I just don't see the happiness there. I just don't see the joy and the childlike wonder of the universe. And that's what these Neptune days can give you. They can just give you a little mental, spiritual, and emotional vacation from all the nose to the grindstone stuff. So enjoy that. Okay, now we have at the end of March 28th, Venus has another very nice aspect. It's a conjunction with the planet Chiron. Now, Chiron is an asteroid, and its orbit goes in between Saturn and Uranus. And I spoke about Saturn and Uranus just a bit ago, where Saturn is the conservative, the authoritarian, the structure person, the dad, basically. And Uranus is quite the opposite. Uranus is the free thinker, the free spirit, the chaos, the unconventional, the weather, crazy changing like the weather, and the sudden and erratic, okay? Chiron orbits literally in a figure eight around these two planets. So it's always going into retrograde because it'll going around one planet, it's in the same sign as that planet, and going around the other planet, it's in the sign of that planet, which isn't strictly how it goes. But anyway, it goes around these two planets and very often appears to be going backwards. But Chiron is a very wonderful planet. Chiron is the wounded healer, and it's where you can heal either by yourself or with the help of other people. And once you do that healing, then you can learn to heal others. And in this age that we're living in, we very often need healing. It's just, we live in an age where we need healing. And Capricorn, you do need healing. I mean, I don't care who you are as a Capricorn, you probably need healing. And so this is another time. So March actually is a great month for you. There's a lot of beautiful things there. I mean, it's great for everybody, but for you, the Pisces is falling in your third house where you can really indulge in writing and journaling and creativity and imagination in a childlike way. So I'm really encouraging you to do that. All right. So now we're going to move on to February. We did February. Now we go on to not much happening in May, not April, not big things happening in April. So I'm going right to May 14th. That's when Jupiter enters Pisces, is in the middle of May. So again, your third house, but now Jupiter's there. So now these ideas that sprung up and that you experienced in March have been germinating, cogitating, boiling, growing, right? And in May, when Jupiter goes into Pisces, it's going to touch all of that and allow it to expand. So that's a beautiful progression. So again, if you're a writer, great aspects for you as a writer, because Jupiter rules publishing, right? Jupiter and Sagittarius rule publishing in the outer world. So if you've been writing for a little while, now would be the time to get that outline into a publisher. There's no Mercury retrograde to worry about at this time, and you might have very, very positive results with Jupiter there transiting your third house. So that's awesome. Okay. That's May. That's in May. After May 14th, probably for the next few weeks of May 14th. Because at the end of May 29th, Mercury goes retrograde again. But do we have anything else to touch on before we talk about Mercury retrograde? Yes, we do. We do. There is an eclipse in May. I think it's the first eclipse of the year. Let me just check that. Yes, there's an eclipse in Sagittarius, and remember we just had an eclipse in Sagittarius. There's an eclipse at 5 degrees Sag 26. Oh my gosh, that's right on my north node. I bet that's going to be important for me. And that is going to fall in your 12th house. So again, it's sparking the subconscious imagination to a certain extent. But it's really going to be pointing to your subconscious, your dreams, your own self-sabotage, and also people in your life who are shut away. So if there are people, I mean, right now we feel like, all of us feel like we're shut away. We're all in our own 12th house right now from COVID. But you will probably have some sort of connection now with people that have been in some sort of forgotten, locked away existence, like somebody who has been in long-term care, hospital care, or in hospice, or in an ashram, or in a monastery, or cloistered in some way. You may be connecting with that person. And then also when planets go over that eclipse point, that 5 degrees Sag 26, that may pop up in your life too. That's just the way eclipses work. And then on the 29th, we have Mercury and Gemini going retrograde. Now, where does Gemini fall for you, Capricorn? That would be your 5th house. So that's children, and again, the love affairs and games of chance and children and sports and things like that. So no gambling on sports, right? Well, it starts May 29th. It goes direct June 22nd. So, but you've got a bunch of other planets there in the 5th house, and Venus is one of them. So you are going to want to have a love affair in June. The end of May into June, you have all this stuff going on. And because it's Mercury retrograde, I'm going to predict that the person that you started the fling with at the earlier part of the year when it was Mars and Uranus together, that person's going to come back. You're going to see them again. You've got the Moon, Venus, and Mercury in your 5th house during the month of May. And that is going to really shake up the whole romance area of your life. Or it could be shaking up things having to do with your kids or your pets. Your pets is also in the 5th house. Or something to do with sports. If you coach sports or your kids are in sports, that's going to be involved. And also, like I said before, games of chance, gambling, stock market, things like that. So May, very, very, very tail end of May and going into June, really fun time. Also, just the 5th house is you expressing fun, and trying to have fun. And it looks like you're going to have fun with girls because the Moon and Venus is there. So whatever you are, Capricorn, doesn't matter if you're, however you identify, you're going to be hanging out with girls in June and you're going to have fun. And think about it. Last summer, we couldn't really have fun, but I bet by June 2021, I bet we're going to be able to go outdoors and have fun. Maybe go to the beach and swim and just be with people. Wouldn't that be lovely? And your 5th house is definitely saying, get me out there, get me with my friends. So that's going to be fun for you. Okay, and now let's move on to June 10th. And in June, we have another solar eclipse at 19 degrees 47 minutes Gemini, right on the 10th. That's going to hit your 5th house as well. So all this stuff is hitting that 5th house. It's a big theme for the year for you. That's really where things are happening for you. It's going to be really a big time. Now, we already mentioned Mercury retrograde, and that will be retrograde from May 29th to June 22nd when it goes direct, again, in your 5th house. But what else is happening here? 4 days later, we have another Saturn square Uranus. So another instance where Saturn and Uranus have to battle it out for what you are going to do. They're still really in roughly similar positions. They haven't moved that much since the last time they squared. So just go back, rewind the tape, and listen to what I said before, because it's going to be the same. It's the same kind of stuff that's going on there. They're battling it out. Their energies are really at odds with each other. Then on the day before Mercury goes direct, we have Jupiter, which had been direct and gone into Pisces, is going to retrograde and end up going back into Aquarius. So Jupiter in Aquarius is a really interesting feel, and we're going to get a dose of that, or we got it by the time you listen to this. And if you're re-listening to this in 2021, we had the great conjunction on winter solstice of 2020, and that's when we really felt Jupiter and Saturn at 0 degrees Aquarius. Now, Jupiter likes to be very, very expansive and fatherly and warm and giving and lucky and big and partying and happiness. And Saturn isn't that stuff. Saturn is the rules and conservative and structure, but also remember crystallization and focus and clarity. So Jupiter and Saturn gave us a taste of that in December, and then they walked through Aquarius, and then eventually Jupiter surpassed, because Jupiter was faster than Saturn, so Jupiter went on into Pisces, but now Jupiter's retrograding back into Aquarius. So what does this mean? This means that things that you were trying to get done having to do with your resources, we talked about that, money things, are going to come back up, and you're going to be able to deal with them in a different way. Jupiter retrograde and most of the big planets retrograde are not the same as a Mercury retrograde. It's not like it's the opposite, like things go wrong. Things go different. Sometimes people, astrologers think that planets in retrograde are weakened, and that may be. So it may diminish it a little bit, but we're talking about the giant gas planet, the biggest planet that we have in our solar system, Jupiter. So Jupiter's ability to expand, even when it's retrograde, is still pretty powerful, much more powerful than any other planet. So you're still going to get a chance to work on, or maybe resubmit things, because this is going on in your Second house. So resubmitting things, maybe that book that you're writing, or maybe that project that you're starting, maybe you're resubmitting for either a book for a publisher, or maybe you're trying to get loans for a business, or maybe you're trying to get a film out, or maybe you're trying to get a business venture and you need venture capital. Those things may be resubmitted when Saturn returns back to Aquarius. So interesting. So check that out for June, towards the end of June, the third week in June. That's when Jupiter goes retrograde and ends up moving back into Aquarius. And of course, Mercury is direct on the 22nd. Going into July, we have Mars in Leo now. Mars is booking in 2021. Mars is really just zooming through the zodiac, and it is going to be squaring Uranus. Now, we had one of those at the beginning of the year as well. But then Mars was conjunct Uranus in Taurus, and now it's gone in all the way up to the sign Leo, so it's moving very fast this year, and it's squaring. So let's see where that hits you. Your 8th house is where Mars is going to be, so it's going to have to do with energy and focus and anger, pointed towards your shared resources, squaring what's going on in your 5th house. So if you have started a new relationship and you're beginning to commingle cash, there might be an issue, or you might uncover something. Something sudden and unexpected is going to happen pertaining to a love affair, or your children, or sports, or something, and your shared resources. I'm just going to leave it at that, because it's going to be different for everybody, but that's basically, those are the elements at play. And then we have, in September, Mercury is going to go retrograde in Libra at 19 degrees, and that's going to fall in your 10th house. That's having to do with your career. So in September, towards the end of September, September 27th, not a good time to make decisions about your career or to change things in your career. Also, if you are a person who has to sign contracts for your work, don't sign them. Mercury will be direct by October 18th. And by the way, Jupiter has still been retrograde this whole time. And it will go direct on October 17th. But don't do anything having to do with contracts, small appliances, electricity around your home, any types of transactions having to do with like cars or things like that. Don't do any of that stuff around this time when Mercury is retrograde. And then November 15th, we have another aspect between Mars and Uranus. We have Mars in Scorpio opposing Uranus Taurus. Now, this is the third time in the year that we've had these major aspects with Mars, and I'm expecting that there's a buildup, that this one on November 15th, that this is the one that's going to build up to the explosion. Oh, we have one more. We have one more. Oh, no. I'm wrong. I just have my pages out of order. So this is the one that it's really building up to. And Scorpio, for you, Capricorn, is your 11th house. So that energy is going to be asking you to take a look at your relationships with people in groups, in larger groups. Very often the 11th house, this is your 11th house, has to do with the money that you spend from the career where you made it. You may be contributing to charities. You may be starting foundations. You may not be. You may not be that kind of high roller. You may be just retiring and traveling, because you were good at saving and you have a pension. Or you may be retired and just have more time on your hands, and you may be doing philanthropic things or not. You may just be pursuing your hobbies. The 11th house with Mars there is going to say that this is where you're going to make some sudden decisions, some sudden changes, and about the way you want to live your life in the future. Now, you may not even be close to retirement age. You may be very, very young and listening to this and going, why do I worry about retirement? So this aspect would have to do with your own hopes, dreams, and wishes that connect you with other people in some kind of group. And it may be small groups, but I've heard of Meetup. So anybody in Meetup, that's your 11th house. So that clash between Mercury and Uranus is going to be a big one for you. And the little spots along the way during the year are going to be a prelude or a foreshadow of what's happening on November 15th, because that's like the big kahuna. And then on the 19th of November, we have a lunar eclipse in Taurus. That's very fun for us. And that's going to be, that's so nice. That trines your ascendant. That's going to be in your 5th house, that lunar eclipse. And that's going to be really, really nice for you. Although it's, no, it's past Uranus. It's not going to fall on Uranus. So that's good. So your eclipses are always big changes. And then as planets pass over that eclipse point, it sparks new developments of that change. So that's very fun. And then on December 4th, we have a solar eclipse. They always go in pairs, lunar, solar, lunar, solar. We have a solar eclipse again in Sagittarius at 12 degrees, 22 minutes. And that's going to be in your 12th house again. So you're going to have another echo of what's going on with your subconscious and your creativity. So sensing themes here. Okay. And finally, we come to Christmas Eve of 2021. We have a square between Saturn and Uranus. That's another theme going throughout the year. And that's involving your 2nd house and your 5th house. So that's also going to echo and reverberate with the previous squares of Saturn and Uranus. So that's a big wrap up of the year there. There's a lot going on there. If you would like a personal natal chart done, my information is at the bottom of the screen here. You can go to my website and see all of the services that I offer and what how much it costs and how to get a hold of me, how to book. All of that stuff is on my website. I'm so glad you listened all the way to the end, Capricorn. Please leave me a comment down below. And as the year goes on, as 2021 progresses, let me know how these things worked out for you and if they really hit the way I thought they were going to hit, because I'm pretty sure they are, but I'd love to hear it from you. Like I said, I have Capricorn rising as well, so Capricorn rising is very near and dear to my heart, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.